Okay, so this is a scenario based on in which we have the data in tax related data, in a particular source file, which is in the type of WSDL file, and later we'd like to move this data. We'd like to move this data and send a mail to individuals or organization. So this is what we have. Later we'll also add few more things here, but we are keeping it straight. We have the tax details in the WSDL format, and we'd like to send it as an email to the individuals or organizations. So for this, we'll go ahead and build a new iFlow for this. So let me log in here. Okay, so let us start. Yeah, so let us start with the design, a new one. I'm clicking on create. This is VA tax details. So I'm creating it as VA tax details. So this is tax details for individuals, and version will be getting as 1.0.0. Vendor I'm giving it as tax department, and save. Once the package is saved, and we will be clicking on the artifacts, and in the artifacts will be adding the integration flow. So we'll be going ahead with the integration flow, the iFlow. Select that, and here we'll be taking up integration flow name. So I'll be give it as something like VA tax iFlow tax if, and SAP Cloud Platform Integration. Tax details, and I'm saying OK now. And we get this integration flow here. We'll double click on it, and here we have the sender. So from the sender to the integration process, we would like to keep it as the SOAP. So we'll go ahead and select the SOAP. So let me first click on edit, because this will be in the display mode. So when I select this now, I have this arrow, so I just need to select this arrow and move it here. And here we will be selecting it as SOAP. SOAP, and in this we'll be selecting this SOAP 1.x. So we are linking from the sender, we are mapping it to the integration process through the SOAP here. Now when we select this SOAP, we need to do the configuration for that, so it will be here. So in case if it's not very much clearly visible, you can click on this maximize button and get this clearly visible. So here we can give the sender name and sender details. Then we have the connections here. The connection name, I'll give it as slash va underscore tags, and I'm giving this service definition as WSDL. And here we have this URL. So the URL to get that WSDL file. So we already have the um, WSDL. If we need to have the WSDL file available in our system, so we'll select that and click on the upload from the file. And I have this WSDL file here, and in this I'll be selecting this user data underscore WP. This WSDL, it's there in the WSDL language. So I'll clear this, I'll select this user data here. Now once it's been done, we'll automatically get this service and endpoint, which is taken from the file here, and then we'll click on save. So these are the details that we have here. Going forward, we'll understand each and every step, why we are doing it, and all these things. So right now I'm going ahead and executing this now. So we let's focus on the steps now. And here we have the SOAP from sender to the integration process. Then I'll just double click somewhere here, and you will get this details of general details. We have VA underscore taxif is the integration flow name that we have, and when you click on the runtime configuration, we will be getting this all details in the runtime configuration. So we have the SAP cloud integration. The namespace has been generated automatically. So in case if you want the header to be allowed, we can give it, but at this point of time we are not giving that, so we'll select that, save. Next we have the end, from the end to the receiver. We'll be mapping from the end to the receiver. Receiver will be the individual or the organization. So when we select this and map it here, I'll be selecting it as email, mail, and here we need to have this email details. So we have this connections here. In the connections we need to give the address, and we need to give the internet details and all. So we need to give the email details. So again we can click on this and expand it. So we need the address. In general we have this receiver and all. Tax details, connections. So we need to give the email details. So in this we have the email connection details needs to be provided here. So the address would be smtp gmail.com:587. That's it. And the credential name, whatever credential name that we give here, needs to be configured. So we'll see that. And I'm giving this credential name as something like Gmail CN. I mean like credential CN. CN means credential name. And click on save. Then we have the processing. In the processing, we need to give the email ID, the from email ID and to email ID. Okay, and subject is something like tax details. Your tax details. Then if you need the attachments, we need to add attachments here. So we'll click on add attachment, and in this we'll give this file name which needs to be attached. So we'll give the file name as something like income tax underscore details dot csv. So we are giving the attachment name here as a file name, a specific file name called income tax details, and I've saved it. Okay, this is default one, let it be like that. So now we have this details of the email. See. Now whatever okay, so here we have the connection. In the connection, I've given the credential name as gmail underscore cn. Now this gmail underscore cn credential name needs to be configured. We need to configure that. So once we save this, we'll click on this monitor, and in the monitoring, in the monitoring, we'll select this security here. We'll have something called security, and in the security we need to maintain the credentials for that connection. So in this I'll be creating user credentials, and in the user credentials we'll be writing this name. The name will be whatever we have given there, the user credentials that we gave there, and description is something like Gmail credentials, and this is user credentials, and username. So we are clicking on deploy. So this create user credentials have to be done here, and this Gmail underscore cn exactly whatever we have maintained there. So Gmail underscore cn, and this is deployed. So here we have configured the email. Once the email is been configured here, we'll go back and give a content modifier. We'll be selecting the content modifier, edit. We'll select the content modifier. Content modifier enables us to modify the data. So once we get the content modifier here, so the content modifier has to take the data which is in the source and give it to the receiver. So in this we have this content modifier message header. Okay, let me expand this. So we have in general, we have message header, we have exchange property, and we have message body. So we need to select this. We need to select this exchange property, and in this exchange property we'll be adding, because we need to add it from here, and we have this as name as, I'll give it as account type, and this is not constant, this will be XPath here, and the moment we give it as XPath, automatically the properties have to come here. Okay, so I'll give it as java.lang.string. The value happens to be account underscore type. Now this is the exchange property in the content modifier. I'll be explaining you in detail the reason for this later. So we'll go for add now, and we'll go for this again as the exchange property as, say something like pan, and this is XPath. Data type is again Java. .lang, dot string tags id. See, so we have built this content modifier now. Now here we'll be doing the message mapping. So for the message mapping, so we'll go for the message mapping here, and we'll be selecting the message mapping here, and the message mapping name can be changed. Okay, I'll click on this create button now. So when we click on this create button for the messenger message mapping, so I'll give this as something like mm_underscore tags details create. So when we do the message mapping, we need to add the source message and we need to add the target message. So in the source message, we'll select this source message and we will upload the file here. Okay, so I'll upload the file which is available for us. It's user data underscore wp. These are the values that we have, and then target message. I'll give the target message as upload file, and I'll give it as user data. So basically these two are two different files here. So I'm selecting them, and I mean like I think you will be already shared that uh, file names will be shared to you. Okay, so what we'll do here is like we'll be doing the mapping here. Let's do the mapping. Let's go ahead and do the mapping here. So while mapping, we'll see what are the common fields here. So here, let me expand this user data, and here we have the user data. So we have something called tax ID here. Tax ID, we are going to map it to the tax ID. This is a source file and this is a target file on the right. Account type, currency will map to the currency. Annual income, I'm mapping it to the annual income here. And in this way, whatever the fields that we have, all the common fields can be mapped here. First, let me do the direct mapping, and then we'll go ahead with the, if at all, if you don't have the values, we can go for, we can go for constant values. We can go for uh, concatenate and all. So we'll be going ahead with tax percentage, tax amount, first name, last name. Okay, we don't have the full name. So full name, we will create that department to department. Address, I'm giving just street. Email ID, and I guess phone number is also there. Okay, for city also we'll find a way to map it. So if you see the user ID, for user ID we don't have a source field. So we will create a user ID in such a way that the system generates a new ID. So for that we'll select this, click on this, and assign constant. We'll go for assign constant here. The moment we go for assign constant, the mapping, we can see it down below like this. And in this we have this assign constant. Hello, is my voice audible to you all?
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I'm speaking a bit less low. Uh, okay, I think by tomorrow I'll be fine. Okay, now we have this assign constant, and we'll be going ahead, and we have assigned the constant here. And when we have a constant, we basically would like to generate a new ID for every record. So if at all, if we have that kind of a requirement, so what we'll do is we'll click on this assign. So we already assigned it. So functions. In the functions, if you want to generate ID, we'll have the option called generate ID here. We'll have something called user define. we'd be having an option for this generating ID. Second. Okay, I'll take it from the file here for user ID. So okay, I'll be giving at this point of time I'm giving constant user ID. This is 1000. So I'm giving this user ID 1000 for all. But we will be generating a user ID. Okay, going forward we'll be generating a user ID. I'll change this to a dynamic user ID here. Okay, okay. So I'll be going ahead with the generate ID. That option should be visible here. Okay. Um, so then we'll move on to the next one. The next one would be the full name. Okay, for the full name again, we'll be clicking on this icon here. Full name, click here, and we'll be going ahead with the assign constant. Okay, full name I'll go for add variable, and the variable name here would be first name. So what we basically will do is we have this first name and last name. Just first name has come here. So we would like to add the first name and last name here. And first name, last name, we'd like to concatenate into this full name. So to concatenate, we'll have an option here in the text. So in the text option, we'll have something called concatenate, and we'll select this concatenate here. And when we concatenate, we'd like to give this as first name as a string 1 and last name as string 2. These two things have to be concatenated to the full name. Okay, so we will now see. Okay, and we still have a couple of fields for which we don't have values on the right side, and which we have the city. For city, at this point of time, I'll give this address. I'm mapping it to city. So I'm making sure that nothing is empty on our right side. Okay, so I'd like to stimulate it. So I've done the mapping now. So the stimulation is like we'll just check if this is working fine. So for that, we'll click on the simulate, and in the simulate, we'll upload a source file here. We'll upload a source file here, and the source file happens to be which we already have available. So the source file, I'll give it as tags input simulate. So these are all the values that we have in the source file, and we'll click on test. And once we test it, we'll click on the we'll just check the download output, see data is there. So the output is downloaded. Let me check in the downloads. It's processing, I guess. Now this is the output, this is the input, and this is the output. So I gave this user ID as 1000 here, constant, so I can probably change that. So I just gave this as constant. I wanted to generate it automatically by the system. Anyways, like the tax ID, everything that we have on the left is on the right, but we can check the full name, because the full name is something which needs to be a bit different, because a full name should be a combination of first and last name. So it's like first name is John, last name is Doe, the full name is John Doe, and then we have the city. I've mapped it as address, so it's coming. So we can also split the data. Address can be split, and we can split at a particular character, comma, and we can have that that value into one particular feet. We'll do that, and with this, like once that data is downloaded, once it's been downloaded, it'll look something like this. This is the data. This is the data that we have it in the source file, WSDL file. So this is the data, and we have successfully accessed that file and uploaded and moved it till here. This is what we have done.